Hi, I'm Susie Miller, the Better Relationship Coach, and I'm committed to helping you create better relationships in business, life, and love in just 30 days or less. And on today's episode of Better Relationship TV, we're going to talk about timing a conversation as being one of the most important parts of how the conversation goes. Have you ever thought about that? How important timing is to whether a conversation is going to go well or not? Whether you're at work or at home, the atmosphere surrounding a conversation can have a huge impact on how that conversation goes well. So timing is really important. Think about it. Let's say you need to have a conversation with a colleague at work. It's not a controversial conversation. It's just a little bit of a, let's discuss this. Let's have a little bit of a debate. Let's kind of pick this apart. I want to kind of get your ideas. I want to bounce some ideas off of you. So it's an easy conversation. It's not just a, we need to handle a problem conversation. So it's really important that you think about when the best timing to have that conversation is. Maybe the coworker you need to address is a nose to the grindstone, plow through until I finish kind of guy or gal, and they would not really welcome an interruption to discuss or debate or bounce around some new ideas. So if you came to them in the middle of their kind of charging ahead, they would feel like that was an interruption. They would not be as creative or as open or as receptive, and probably a whole lot less engaging in the conversation, and you would go away feeling frustrated that they weren't joining you in the creative process, not heard, all those things that happen when conversations don't go well. Let's say you knew this about your colleague and you took the time to say, when you get a few minutes today, I'd love to chat with you about an idea I want to run by you, get your thoughts on, and so just let me know when you're free. Or when do you think would be a good time for you? Now let me unpack why that's important. First of all, when somebody says we got to talk, the first response a lot of us have is, oh no, what have I done? I'm in trouble, and we want to avoid the conversation. So by saying, hey, when you get a few minutes, I'd like to talk to you about fill in the blank. I'd like to get your ideas and input on fill in the blank. They know what's coming. The other piece of that that's so important is when you get a chance, when it works for you, that communicates that you understand their work style and that you don't want to just pop your head in and interrupt. You really want to have their time, their energy, and their focus to have the best conversation possible. Timing there is everything. Let's shift that. Let's say the person that you want to talk with is an employee and they tend to do really well in spur-of-the-moment discussions. Let's say your conversation would then increase their energy, improve their output, increase their productivity and their engagement. So having a spontaneous conversation may change the whole trajectory of their workday. So in that case, you may want to catch them and say, hey, do you have a few minutes? I want to run an idea by you. Or I'd love to get your thoughts on something. Or, could you weigh in on how you think we could better do this with other employees? Do you see how the timing of those conversations really can impact the outcome? As well as knowing your coworkers, your employees, their personalities. Let's switch real quick to home. I've talked about this before in my Monday Marriage Minute about timing a conversation with your spouse, but it's true across the board with your kiddos, with your friends, with your family, and with your spouse. When you have the conversation really matters. Let me give you an example. Our son would come home from school and I'd be excited to see him and we might have a whole bunch of things to do that afternoon in terms of we need to get their homework done, we need to get these few errands run before we drop you off at practice. And he would come in and I'd want to kind of discuss what he had for homework and how we were going to fit all that in because we also had his two older sisters. And I would bring it up way too soon, realizing that when he came home from school, he wanted to dump his backpack. He usually had to hit the men's room, and he wanted just a few minutes to decompress before we made this transition to, okay, what's it going to look like from now until bedtime with 3 kids in sports, honor students, and all that happens in the life of a family. So I had to learn to step back and wait till he came back downstairs and say, hey, do you have the headspace to talk about how today's going to look? And we kind of got into a pattern there of really knowing when was the best time to talk. I think it's so important that we realize the timing of when we have a conversation is a huge step to how effective that communication, that conversation will go. So the next time you really want to say something or you want to have a discussion, step back and think about the timing of it and when to bring it up. Really quick, I want to talk to all the people who are more hesitant to bring up things, and they might be the avoiders of conversations or I'll get to it later. When you do that, that timing actually kills the momentum. Sometimes it's really important to take the step, plan the conversation, get it out there so that it actually happens, because when we avoid it, it could be that we're then alone in our creativity. We don't get the synergy of a whole team. We don't bring up something with our kids that we need their input on. We ignore something with our spouse, and it just festers. So whether you're an initiator or an avoider, think through the timing of when is the best time to have your conversation so that it is the most effective with your team, with your clients, with your coworkers, with your kiddos, with your spouse, with your family. That's my tip for today. For more tips, pop on over to susiemiller.com, and I'll see you next time.